Step 7. Attaining mental equilibrium, developing the astral senses, and creating elementaries. A lecture given by Rawn Clark on the 1st of November, 2009. Today, I will be discussing the entirety of Step 7. The sole task of the mental section of Step 7 is the attainment of a mental equilibrium of the elements. This is somewhat similar to the early work of attaining an astral equilibrium of the elements, but at a much deeper level. Here you must make changes to your fundamental self instead of your superficial character. The astral self-transformation was all about positivizing your astral character. With the mental transformation, however, it's all about balancing the elemental qualities or regions of your mental body so that no aspect of your awareness is stronger than any other. This is not accomplished by weakening or transforming your strongest traits, but rather by building up your weaker traits until they are equal in strength to your strongest trait. For example, if the fire region is weak in relation to the air region, which is to say, if your intellect is stronger than your will, then you must build up your will until it is equal to the strength of your intellect. This is a fairly straightforward concept. However, we must not think in terms of the mundane meaning of the words Barden used in describing the qualities of the mental body. Here, in the context of Step 7, the terms will, intellect, feeling, and consciousness indicate much more fundamental aspects of awareness than their mundane meanings imply. Here, will refers to the fire region of your mental body and your awareness of and expression of your own unique essential nature. Intellect refers to the air region of your mental body and your ability to perceive, assimilate, and express essential meaning. Feeling, of course, refers to the water region of your mental body and your ability to perceive, experience, and express emotional significance. And consciousness refers to the earth region of your mental body and the degree to which you are able to fully integrate your mental and astral awareness into your mundane existence. As with the astral transformation, our work begins with introspective self-analysis, except that here you're not making a list of positive and negative character traits. Instead, you're simply analyzing the relative strength of each aspect or region of your mental body. You must determine which of the elements are strongest and which are weakest, and rank them in relative order from strongest to weakest. With our mental equilibrium, we must take into account an additional factor beyond the four elements, namely the akasha. Barden used the term conscience to describe the fundamental quality of the mental body in relation to akasha, and in terms of exercises to strengthen this quality, he listed, quote, realizing realities. These are very telling clues, so to speak, meant to point us in the right direction, just like the words will, intellect, feeling, and consciousness led us to a deeper understanding. With the word conscience, Barden referred to our inner sense of knowing right from wrong, and thereby leads us to understand that he is really speaking of our connection with our own greater self, or eternal mental body, through the agency of our guardian genius, or directly through merging with the akasha itself. Our greater self is the eternal aspect of our mental body or spirit, and resides, so to speak, within the eternal non-sequential realm. It's the causal source of our central spark of self, the fire region of our temporal mental body. As such, our essential nature, manifest as our central spark of self, is an emanation of our greater self-awareness into the sequential realm. Our temporal mental body is thus the vehicle of our greater self-awareness, and in order to fully manifest our greater self within the temporal realm, our mental vehicle must be equilibrated. The question then, in terms of the mental equilibrium, is how strong is our perception and expression of the emanation from our greater self? How aware are we of the voice of our conscience from moment to moment, and how completely do we implement its influence? How strong is our connection with our guardian genius? How completely are we able to merge with the akasha and thus with our greater self? And perhaps most importantly, how thoroughly do we manifest our greater self through our individual self and our personality? Once you have completed the introspective self-analysis of your mental body and have determined which element or elements are strongest, you must then devise a regimen of exercises that will strengthen the weaker elements of your awareness. Barton described these exercises to a very limited extent, and also provided a simple table of associations to guide us. But again, his words are meant to point and to lead us, and shouldn't be taken at face value. Above all, we must remember that the context here is step 7. So, let's review what Barton really meant regarding the exercises to be undertaken in the strengthening of the mental body's elemental regions. With the fire region, Barton wrote about the relationship between fire, light, eyesight, and will, and suggested optic or visualization exercises to strengthen this region. In the context of what you accomplished in Step 6, visualization exercises really means that you should increase or strengthen your tripolar perception of essential meaning through your eyes. Furthermore, his comments about light indicate that to strengthen the fire region of your mental body, you must work more thoroughly with the light, in the manner of Step 6's instructions regarding the creation of an elemental, which is to say, you must exercise your ability to impress your will upon undifferentiated essential meaning, and thus give it differentiation and specificity. Additionally, you must exercise your mundane willpower in your daily life, because each strengthening within the mental awareness must be reflected in your mundane existence in order for it to truly take hold as a permanent feature. With the air region, Barton wrote of the relationship between air and hearing and suggested acoustic exercises. But this doesn't mean the Step 2 style exercises as his words imply. Instead, this is a reference to increasing or strengthening your tripolar perception of essential meaning through your ears. In other words, practice your tripolar hearing. Furthermore, to truly strengthen your intellectual capacity, you must actively increase your exposure to and consideration of new ideas and concepts. With the water region, Barton wrote about the relationship between water and feeling and suggested emotional exercises to, quote, render your spirit more emotional. What this really means is twofold. First, that you must exercise your tripolar perception of emotional significance through all your senses, but especially through your tactile sense. Secondly, that you must pursue Step 2 style exercises in which you create various emotional states within your astral body. And of course, in your mundane life, you must strive to be more sensitive to the emotions of others and more expressive of your own emotions. With the earth region, Barton mentioned the senses of taste and smell and the overall consciousness, and suggested exercises that, quote, expand the consciousness. What this really means is that you must practice your tripolar state of awareness and activity, since this integrates your mental and astral bodies with your physical existence. Working tripolarly with your senses of taste and smell will also increase this integration, so these exercises are advisable. Ultimately, it's a matter of becoming more and more aware of your physical existence, more and more holistically connected with your moment-to-moment life. And finally, in regard to the Akasha, practice of the Step 5 passive communication with your guardian genius, and pursuing the Step 6 work of merging with your central spark of self, merging your central spark of self with the Akasha, will both increase and influence the influence of this aspect of your awareness. Barton suggested exercises in, quote, realizing realities, which means manifesting the greater self-influx within every plane of your existence, mental, astral, and physical. So, having discerned which aspects of your mental body need to be developed more fully, you must pursue the appropriate exercises until you have successfully strengthened them to the point where all four fundamental regions, where all four elemental regions are perfectly balanced and thus equal in strength. This mental equilibrium of the elements must be attained before beginning the work of Step 8 and mental wandering, so do give it your all. In regard to the Akasha, you do not have to bring this up to equal strength with the 4 elemental regions at this point, although this will be necessary further on. For now, you must commit to always continuously develop and pursue this aspect of your awareness. Once attained, the mental equilibrium of the elements requires very little in the way of the kind of continuous monitoring and maintenance that the astral equilibrium does. At the most, what one must guard against is an imbalanced increase of one elemental region over the others. This can happen unintentionally in association with the element you experience the greatest affinity with. For example, if you are naturally watery, then you must be sure that the growth of the water region of your mental body does not outpace the growth of the other regions. In this event, you would need to intentionally strengthen the other regions through pursuit of the relevant exercises. So, let's turn now to the astral exercises of Step 7, development of the astral senses of clairvoyance, clairhearing, and clairfeeling. As Barden pointed out, odds are that your astral senses will already have been developed to a greater or lesser degree, depending upon your natural abilities, combined with the training you've undergone thus far. However, it is important that no matter how well developed you might feel they are at this point, you still develop them further with these exercises. The true astral senses are an amplification of the mental senses which, as we have already discovered, allow us to perceive the essential meaning and emotional significance of all that we experience through our physical senses. The astral senses give these mental perceptions a more concrete form as images and sounds, in addition to the underlying mental understanding. You will, no doubt, have already experienced this phenomena. For example, when you are wielding an element or the vital energy and you actually see it. This is a form of clairvoyance. Similarly, you might actually hear the thoughts of the person into whom you've transferred your consciousness. This is a form of clairhearing. And likewise, when you explore the depth point of a person or object and you perceive images, sounds, emotional states, etc., from their past or present experience, this is a form of clairfeeling. In each case, the astral images, sounds, and feelings are informed by your concurrent perception of their mental essential meaning and emotional significance. Our mental senses function on all 3 levels of existence, mental, astral, and physical, and yet we use them exclusively to navigate, as it were, the mental realm itself. Our astral senses, on the other hand, are functional only on the astral and physical planes, and are used in conjunction with our mental senses when we move about the astral plane. Likewise, our physical senses are functional only on the physical plane, and we naturally use them in conjunction with our mental and astral senses to navigate the physical plane. Therefore, in the development of our astral senses, we must consider their dependence upon the information gleaned by our mental senses and their connection with our physical sensory organs. Thus, Barden incorporates mental, astral, and physical components in each of the exercises he describes for their development. With clairvoyance, he involves the physical eyes, the astral fire element, and the mental light. With clairhearing, he incorporates the physical ears, the astral air element, and the mental ether akasha. And with clairfeeling, we employ an individually appropriate area of the physical body, the astral water element, and the mental magnetic fluid. Barden also encourages the use of physical fluid condensers as containers for the elements, but these are optional tools whose functions can easily be supplanted by simple accumulations of the elements. So let's examine the methods themselves, starting with clairvoyance, the astral sight. First, you must adopt a tripolar state of awareness in which you are conscious of all 3 bodies simultaneously. In fact, all of these exercises with the astral senses must be performed while in a tripolar state. Next, focus your awareness within your depth point, your central spark of self, and connect with the universal light upon the mental plane. This is the same light or radiance of undifferentiated essential meaning that was dealt with in the Step 6 creation of an elemental. Now you must draw the entire body of this light into your physical body so that it is evenly and densely accumulated throughout your whole body. I should note here that guiding or drawing this light from the mental plane into your physical body is a task that you will have not encountered before, but with just a little bit of experimentation and thought, you will quickly master it. Once the condensed light fills your physical body, you must impress upon it the idea that, as Barden described, quote, "The light is penetrating everything, seeing everything, and looking through everything. Neither space nor time is any hindrance to this light." Close quote. Then you must guide all of the light into your eyes. This further condenses the light so that by the time all of it has moved into your eyes, each eyeball is like a radiant sun. Now spend several minutes focused upon the idea that the penetrating, all-seeing power of the light permeates your astral and physical eyes, transforming them or transferring to them the power of clairvoyance. When you are finished with the exercise, let go of the accumulated light and let it completely dissipate until none at all remains in your eyes or in your body. Repeat this accumulation of the all-seeing light into your eyes as frequently as possible, all the while confident of the fact that the light is rapidly transforming your astral and physical eyes and rendering them capable of clairvoyance. To supplement and perhaps hasten this transformation of your physical and astral eyes, you may incorporate the fire element into your work. This can be done as Barden described, with the use of cotton balls soaked with a simple fluid condenser which have been loaded with the fire element and then applied over your eyes. Or the exact same effect can be attained by simply creating an accumulation of the fire element that rests upon the surface of your eyeballs, a feat that should be very simple at this point in your training. In time, this practice will transform your astrophysical eyes and render them capable of astral sight. Then, to use your astral vision, all you have to do is shift your awareness to your astral eyes. In other words, you won't need to accumulate the light into your physical eyeballs in order to use your astral sight. Now let's deal with clear hearing. Prepare in advance a couple of fluid condenser loaded cotton plugs into which you have accumulated the air element and impressed your desire for the faculty of clear hearing in your astral and physical bodies. Cram the prepared cotton plugs into your ears as tightly as possible. Alternately, you can simply create two suitably sized accumulations of the air element onto which you have impressed your desire and transfer them to your ear canals. Now adopt a tripolar awareness, and then focus your consciousness into your depth point, your central spark of self, and connect with the Akasha. Draw the higher Akasha down the continuum and fill your entire head with the Akasha ether. This means that the physical ether, along with the higher Akasha, fills your entire head. Then transfer or focus your awareness into both of your ears and spend several minutes focused upon the idea that the Akasha ether permeates your astral and physical ears, transferring to them the power of clear hearing. When you are finished with the exercise, let go of the Akasha ether and let it completely dissipate until none at all remains in your ears or in your body. Also, either disperse the accumulated air element or remove the cotton plugs from your ears. As with the clairvoyance exercise, repeat as often as you can, with the constant assurance that this is transforming your astral and physical ears, rendering them capable of clear hearing. In time, your astral hearing will open, and once fully developed, all you will have to do is focus your awareness upon your astral ears in order to activate and make use of your clear hearing. But prior to this point, you can activate your clear hearing for use by simply inducing the Akasha into the inner acoustic duct of either one or both ears. Before I begin to discuss the clear feeling exercises itself, I want to quote what Barden wrote about the faculty of clear feeling, since it's important to keep this in mind while performing the exercise. Quote, "The term clear feeling means the faculty of perceiving and feeling all phenomena and powers occurring in the elements and in the Akasha. To this field also belongs the faculty of psychometry, that is, the clear perception of present, past, and future of any object, letter, and so forth. Even the power of materialization of any thought Any being, no matter whether the point in question is a self-created being or an entity already existing in the Akasha, belongs to this domain. Other faculties connected with the sense perception and touch sensation can also be registered in the category of clairfeeling. Intuition, too, is originating in clairfeeling. Close quote. Well, at first, this description may seem like a mishmash of various faculties, but if you meditate deeply on all the ideas presented in Barden's words, you will come to understand the root which connects them all. Before beginning the exercise, you must first determine which element you experience the most affinity with. Barden suggested that you look back to your original soul mare and see which element predominated at that time, and in most cases this is likely a good method. However, during the course of pursuing the work of the 6 steps between that past moment and this present moment, your elemental affinity may have changed. So it's a good idea to base your choice of elemental affinity more on your present state than your past. The element determines the area of our physical body that we will work with in this exercise. Thus, if your affinity is with the fire element, you will work with your head region and your forehead specifically. If it is the air element, then you work with your chest region in the area over your heart. With the water element, your abdominal region at your solar plexus. And if it's the earth element, your hands or thighs are used. You must also prepare a fluid condenser soaked pad into which you must accumulate the water element, along with the conviction that the element contains the power of clairfeeling and will convey this power to the astrophysical body area you've chosen to work with. Alternately, you can simply accumulate the water element atop the designated area, as I've mentioned before. For this exercise, you must lie down flat on your back. Place the prepared fluid condenser soaked pad over the area in which you're going to develop clairfeeling, or accumulate the water element there, and impress upon it the same ideas that were mentioned earlier in regard to loading the pad. Next, adopt a tripolar state of awareness and focus your consciousness within your depth point, the fire region of your mental body. Within the mental plane, you must now imagine that you are completely surrounded by an infinite ocean of water, and then draw this water from the mental plane to the physical plane and cause it to entirely fill your whole physical body. Now transfer your tripolar awareness into the designated sensory area of your physical body, and as Barden wrote, quote, imagine that the magnetic power of the water you have accumulated within yourself will enliven the finest particles of your sensation field and produce the astral clairfeeling. You must be able to imagine the magnetic attractive power of the water so intensively that it becomes an incontestable reality. Close quote. When you're finished, you must, as usual, rid yourself of the element and remove the fluid condenser pad. Once your sensory region is fully developed, all you will need to do is to activate your clairfeeling is to focus your tripolar awareness into the designated region. If you perform these exercises correctly, and especially with a firm conviction, then they will develop your astral senses to a very high degree, and the world will open itself to you in ways you've never before experienced. You must always, however, remain in absolute control over whether or not your astral senses are active, and be able to turn them on and off at will. Well, that ends my comments about the astral exercises of Step 7, which leaves us with the physical exercises. As with the last step and all future steps, the physical section no longer presents exercises per se, but rather examples of magical practice. Nonetheless, they do need to be pursued because of the techniques revealed, what you will learn from their performance, and the changes that this new knowledge will induce within you. This section deals with 4 basic techniques for creating elementaries, which are astral beings intentionally created by the magician out of the elements. Barden's instructions are so explicit that there's really nothing that I can find to add that would be of any actual value, other than to say that I personally have found working with Elementaries quite pleasurable and rewarding. So that ends my comments on Step 7. Next week I will be discussing Step 8.